Hello, everybody. My name is Nicole Pringle, and I'm the president of Gullah Business of Charleston. And today I have the vice president here, Tiffany Savage.
You said I don't know what else to
I know you
say.
said, say
You
hi to the
introduced
people.
me.
She said,
I
hi.
don't have to tell you. You already introduced me, huh? Like,
That cracks me up every time. And as always, we try to bring the latest features to you guys. So we have a new special guest here, Joshua Mishoe. And he is the
Mhm.
creator of Camp Geechee. And I'm excited because a comic book. We got to get into that. But I'm going to get into just tell us about you and how you got started. Well,
So,
tell us who you are first and where you're from. Let's go there.
so, peace and blessings, everybody. My name is Joshua Mishoe. I'm from Bucksport, South Carolina. Yet, like you mentioned, I'm the creator of Camp Geechee. A little bit things about me. I graduated from Coast Carolina University with my degree in sport and exercise science. I have my own fitness business. I work at my local community center. Been doing it for about 3 years, where I'm the after school and summer camp director out at my community center. And other things I love to do, I do powerlifting, get ready to go pro in powerlifting. And I also really love to do things like drawing, grilling, reading history, things like that. But we are here to talk about Camp Geechee, a Gullah Geechee inspired manga. A Gullah Geechee inspired manga. Now, you said comic book. We'll talk about a little bit of the difference. There's a
There's
difference
a
between a comic book.
difference. Oh, see? School me.
Mhm. Okay, so has either of you ever heard of anime?
Yes.
So anime, all manga are Japanese style comic books. So the animes that most people that are coming out are from manga. They're a lot smaller and they're
Mhm.
released in volumes. So that's one thing that we're doing with this story is we're releasing them in volumes, not issues. Issues are more like chapters. Volumes are more like several chapters in one.
mm,
Okay.
Mhm.
That's the difference. Okay. See?
I also mentioned that I have already, well, well, one thing I didn't touch on was did you want me to dive into how I got into this really quickly?
I want
mhm.
to know, like, so, but would you still go like to Comic-Con or anything like that? Or
I do that already.
okay.
So what I've basically done is I've always had a creative imagination growing up.
Hmm.
I was the kid that I would make my own movie posters and I would go to show and tell and be like, hey everybody, this is my movie that I'm writing, and all you guys are gonna get tickets to my movie. I was the type of kid that was so creative that they could set a box in front of me and I could envision turning this box into like a cardboard plant. And I would do that. Like that was just kind of, I was always having a big imagination growing up. Because of some of the adversity that I faced growing up, I would also watch TV shows and movies. I grew up with anime superheroes, and I would make those movies in my head, TV shows in my head, better because I feel like I can make them better. I'm like, ooh, what if I did this? And what if I did that? So during those tough times, whether it be in school or things that were going on at home, I would get lost in my own world. Somewhere along the way, I gave it up. One of the biggest people that believed in me with doing it was my mother. Along the way, probably to skip a large amount of the story, 2 weeks before I went to college, I lost my mother, and a week later, I lost my older brothers. That was the catalyst that got me to actually finally act on it because I gave them my imagination for a while. That made me kind of like re-spark it. And since then, I started off with doing a main story called No Retreat, No Surrender, which is basically my life mixed in with superpowers and abilities. Right now, we have 3 issues out of that. I knew that with that story, it would be the story to get me in the doors. So I was going to the comic conventions, so I've gone to smaller ones, but I've increased. I went to LA Comic Con. I went to DreamCon last year and this year, and I go to all the other conventions. But with that, um, essentially, what it then led to with how Camp Geechee came about was I remember, like I mentioned to you guys, I work with kids. So by this time, post college, I'm working with children. I already had the No Retreat, No Surrender story, going to places with it. I remember having a dream about me working with the kids and we were outdoors and I had these supernatural powers and abilities. I It was very random, but I remembered it very well. At the same time, I was taking a Gullah Geechee business course and I was asked, have you ever thought about writing a Gullah Geechee inspired story? It didn't connect then, but it prompted me to look into my own lineage. And I was like, wow, I'm directly Gullah Geechee. Like I have deep Gullah Geechee lineage. And then it also prompted me to go around to these conventions and survey my demographic. I would go around and ask, Do you know about Gullah Geechee? Do you know about Gullah Geechee? And everybody, outstandingly, even our own people were like, no. So I was like, this is crazy. So with my imagination, I was like, I, right now, one of the biggest mediums is comic books, TV show, anime, all these different things. People won't pick up a history book, but they'll pick up one of those things. And a good proof of concept is like Greek mythology. Think about it. Like people know a lot about Greek mythology, about the Zeuses and the Herculeses and all this stuff is because there's so many video games, there's so many
Mhm.
TV shows, there's the Percy Jackson series, there's all these different things. We have nothing that's rooted in something for our people.
Mm. Man, that's awesome. Oh man, man, I think you answered a couple of questions. Okay.
You did. Like
My
I was
bad.
looking.
Yeah, I was like, okay.
Okay. I asked one
Y'all,
question. Why did you decide to name it Camp Geechee?
I know it sounds very generic to say this, but it literally came to me in a dream. That was literally like that was a part of the dream that I had. I couldn't explain it, but to me it just stuck. I don't know. Uh, it was also because I did kind of do some digging to see if because I was set on Camp Geechee, but I was like, let me just kind of look in and see if there's Camp Gullah Geechee. And there was a lot of things that were very close to it. That was
Mhm.
just like, you know, but Camp Geechee is what stuck. It was something that very generic answer. It came to me in a dream.
I want to
Wow.
go. I want to go back on something you said because I was on the phone with uh Tiffany, remember just earlier, and because I get asked this all the time, me
Hmm.
being from New York, and people are like, why you name it Gullah Business or Charleston? Why did you name it that? I said, you said something that reminded me because I'm big on like looking at my family history. So I got this tree and I went back from like 18, definitely after slavery. Some of my family members from Charleston that did like wonderful. I mean, like top of the line stuff. Like I'm like, I gotta make my people proud. Like I gotta continue it. I can't just come down here, move to here, and like you said, you talk about Gullah, you talk about Gullah or Gullah Geechee. Black people have no idea, and I couldn't believe
Hmm.
that people didn't know that. And then like we were just talking, Tiffany. I said, well, after a while they'll say like, oh, I remember Gullah Gullah Island, right? But they still
Mhm.
don't. They still don't
It still don't,
understand.
it still don't
You know.
click.
So it's just like I was like, I have to name it this, and I have to come here, and I have to continue the work that my ancestors did because they did. I mean, phenomenal things.
Mm,
Like
mm.
I was like Paul Robeson, that's one of my ancestors. I'm like, he was amazing. I'm like, I gotta keep it up. Like I gotta keep going, and this is what we're gonna call it. So I love that you said that you got to bring it back home. You got to bring it back home. I love that you picked that name and everything. What
I
else was
love
I gonna
that. I
say?
love that.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
the
awesome.
reason the reason I love that you said that is because one of the slogans for Camp Geechee is that this one is for our ancestors, and it's
Mhm.
because without our ancestors, I wouldn't be able to do something like this, and because of them, I am able to do something like this. Something that you just hit on was at a time where our people were told that they can't do things, they did them. So, like one of my cousins, Luna Mishoe, is one of the original Tuskegee Airmen. He
Mm.
um he was the first African American male president at Delaware State University, and he created an algebraic equation that is still used in NASA today. At a time, you were told that you couldn't do it. So, with anime, superhero stuff, all this stuff that we like, this fantasy stuff that we do like, it's mostly because we love the stories of the heroes that prevail against all odds. But that have been our people throughout every era. So that is why it's important to not only preserve these stories, but tell them to like scream them from the rooftops. That's why it's important that what I'm doing is important.
That's awesome that you just developing this into a manga, like you just said. So, my next question is, how do you balance the storytelling with the fantasy and historical aspects of your culture? Because manga, just looking at manga, when I think about it, is just action packed. You do have some drama to it, but I think it's just amazing that you packing this up into a two manga so kids can actually, even adults, because I know a lot of adults
Exactly.
read it,
Mhm.
they can pick it up. And how do you make that balance?
That's probably the funnest part about it for me. Um, because after high school, I started learning more about African American history. And then probably 2 years ago is when I discovered I was Gullah Geechee and started learning more about Gullah Geechee history, folklore, traditions, even realizing that some of the traditions that I never connected that I was already doing throughout my childhood was Gullah Geechee. Um, my mind has become something when I recently went to the Black Moses Festival and it was at the Penn Center and immediately being immersed in the history, my brain started working. How could I turn this into Camp Geechee or put this in Camp Geechee? The best way that I do it is I take real life people, real life locations, and instead of creating something completely out of thin air, I'm like, okay, what would this look like in the world of Camp Geechee? So, for example, even in Volume Zero, this is a historical fiction. And Volume Zero, we go through four different eras: the slavery era, the Civil War, Gullah War era, the Harlem Renaissance. But it's not going to take place in Harlem. It's going to take place in Charleston, South Carolina, and then the Civil Rights era.
Mm.
And we do it that way to, first off, talk about how people have always been here. But I found ways to take historical figures, Dr. Buzzard, Gullah Jack, Robert Smalls, and what do they
Mhm.
look like in these stories? How do I fit them in? The goal would even be to branch out and do side stories of the six triple A. I have a character in the story named Harriet Tubman. Well, her name is Harriet, but she's inspired by Harriet Tubman. The World War One, World War Two, the Civil Rights era. I mean, the Civil War era, all these different things. It will be that's how I balance it is by um, simply taking these real life world scenarios. I created the baseline of the world, how the powers work, the clans, um, what they look like, how they handle things, the traditions, and then the easy part comes in where, like, for example, you guys can find yourself in the story. All I do is take our interaction, find out a little bit more about you, and what do you look like now in this world? What clan would you be a part of? And that's how I
Mm.
form it. So
Mm.
that's the fun part for me. The world building is the fun part. It is a difficult balance because as you write, I've created over 120 pages of lore and having to make sure that I'm consistent with it. It made me have so much more respect for stories like Harry Potter, Marvel stuff, DC stuff, because you have to keep up with the lore. You have to make sure that it makes sense and that there's not plot holes. So the fine tuning is probably like the harder part of the balance because you have to check once, check twice, check three times. Maybe this can be said a little bit better. But all in all, the fun part is the world building of the story.
Wow. I'm curious because we were talking about you said something about the Penn Center. When you went there, uh, I'm sure like a lot of inspiration came out. Like how were you feeling when you went to the Penn Center? Because I know when I went, I was just like, it was so many emotions.
So I was blessed enough to be able to even stay. I don't know if you stayed on campus while you were there as well,
Not just
but
walked around. I didn't stay there. Like, yeah.
so that's even I suggest if you can opportunity to do that as well. Um, for the Black Moses Festival was 3 days, so I stayed on
Mhm.
campus, and from the moment I stepped there, it felt like an overwhelming peace, not overwhelming like pressure, but overwhelming peace. It felt like that it was undescribable being able to be, there was a lot of ancestral energy there.
Mhm.
Like when I went down to the marshlands, the marsh that's down there, there was a lady there that was a part of the festival that was she was singing and she was walking through the mud. And it was just a moment of like, wow, like this is what they don't like. They don't like us being empowered. Like the feeling of being there was empowerment. And the
Mhm.
more I learn about African American history, Gullah Geechee history, the more it empowers you and the more it makes sense of this is why they don't want us to learn it. This
Mhm.
is why they don't teach it. This is
Mhm.
why they make it sound like it's taboo. Because we know that growing up, remember, like, don't speak that Geechee. Like, it's
Mhm.
that broken. They've done that because an empowered people is a pe is a people to be afraid of.
Mhm.
That's why they did what they did in that Turner. Like, for example, like they made sure
Mhm.
they made an example out of him. But yes, all in all, to go back to the main question, it was just an overwhelming peace. Um, and I felt a lot of ancestral energy there. Like, and then like there was a lot of blessings that I had. As soon as I stepped foot there, all the blessings, like there was some blessings and interactions that I had. Mind you, probably out of the three, this I was doing, I just came back from Houston where I did DreamCon, which was over 50K people there. The weekend before that, I did the original Gullah Festival. Both of them had more than this Black Moses Festival, but the Black Moses Festival was my favorite because every interaction I walked away with something and they were incredibly genuine. And I actually got most because do have a Kickstarter going on right now. I got the bigger blessings at the Black Moses Festival. And I
Mm,
firmly do believe that that was ancestral linked. Like it was yet again just undescribable.
mm, mm. And I know that's like when I went there, I was just like looking around, and it's like words I can't put together. It's like,
Exactly.
and I'm like, I gotta go back. Like it's just like one of the
Hmm.
places you gotta go back.
I have another one
Go
if
ahead,
you
Tiff, 'cause I'm
want me
stuck.
to have. I think it's very powerful that we document our work, our history, our expression, our voices in books. So I'm a huge advocate for that. Nick can tell you that when you start
Hmm.
talking about books, any type of form, I'm for. What do you want as the biggest takeaway for anyone that reads Camp Geechee and has no idea what the Gullah Geechee is? What's the biggest takeaway that you want them to have from it?
I hope to plant the seeds for future generations because, like I mentioned to you guys earlier, when you think of Greek mythology and how they did it, there's so many different mediums that they have. Like I said, video games, books, movies. But in comparison to our people and our stories, we do not have the same. But one thing that you see is millennials, Generation Z, and younger, they know a lot about Greek mythology because of that reason. So I hope to plant the seeds when they read this. They're like, the Gullah Geechee corridor, Robert Smalls, Harriet Tubman, it begins to have them start to research this stuff or look into it because yet again, like I said, it's a historical fiction. The plan
Mhm.
is in these volumes as well, is to probably have like something in the back that actually talks about the actual factual inspiration of where it came from. So, for example, Camp Geechee covers the full span of the Gullah Geechee corridor. So think of Camp Geechee like it is a summer camp. Think of it like I don't know if you guys are familiar with Percy Jackson, but like Camp Half Blood. Think of it that way. And like I said, it covers that full span of the corridor. And there's something over it called the Low Country Veil, very similar to how like in Percy Jackson, if you if you had to be a half blood or a part of the I guess the mythology to be able to walk actually into Camp Half Blood. It's the same thing with
Hmm.
Camp Geechee. You have to be a part of those clans to be able to walk into it. Otherwise, you'll walk right through it if you're a regular person. Um,
Mm.
so, but yeah, to go back to it, I hope that people, the biggest takeaway is I'm planting the seeds to preserve our culture and get people to know more about it. Um, yeah, to just to start to intrigue people into it because I think we are starting to see that awakening. We saw that with Sinners. We saw that with the game. There's a game that came out called South of Midnight, and they've done really good because I firmly believe that they're rooted in Southern folklore, and not enough people that grew up down south, or even if they visited grandparents down south, realize how much of the South is their childhood. So when you hear something like the Hags or the Haints or the Spanish Moss being put into these games, and you're like, I remember that. We begin to I feel like it begins to heal parts of us. It
Hmm.
begins to I think what I also the story also talks to knowing who you are as your identity, but also knowing where you came from. I feel like in order to know who we are, we need to learn about our culture. We need to know
Hmm.
about where we came from, and that helps you come fully into who you are meant to be.
I was all into it. I'm like, yeah.
I think I have another question. I have a
Go
follow-up
ahead, go
question.
ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
So me and Nicole were talking previously before we got on the interview with you, and she again brought up the whole point that a lot of people don't know about the Gullah Geechee culture, especially people from the Black community. Even more so, you meet people from different communities that know more about us, and that's true.
Hmm.
Like in fact, I've worked personally with people who have established the corridor here in North Carolina, how it cuts through, and they don't look like us, but they know
Yeah,
so much. So as a follow up, with books and everything, preserving our history, what do you hope that other people who are not part of the community can gain from this and read your books?
I hope they gain a bigger respect for our culture. The reason why I say that is because I feel like in comparison, when you may go to different countries or go to these different like tourist experiences, whether it may be like somebody that's Samoan, Chinese, like different things like that, there's much more of a profound respect for it. I'm not saying that there isn't a respect for Gullah Geechee, but like you said, it isn't common. Um, I hope to make it more of something that is common. I hope that they gain more of a respect for it, understand that this is something that is because, like you said, I've had those same interactions with people that don't look
Mhm.
like us that are coming to these Gullah Geechee events. Um, and I at least can only speak for myself. I don't think that this is the profound amount of it, but I think that it's hard to not almost feel like there's kind of like a pity. That's at
Mhm.
least, and I don't want that to sound negative. I do think there's a respect of it, but I want, it's almost, I don't know, I guess I would say like, it's like, I feel like the people that come that around that aren't like us almost see how there's not a lot of us supporting this, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Um, because I recently, okay, I'll put it this way. I recently went to an event, and like you said, most of the people that came were not like us. Besides the
Mhm.
vendors,
Mhm.
the most people that came, I mean, it didn't look like us.
Mhm.
So I hope that with something like this, we can get it taken more seriously. By getting it into an animation and put it on the big screen, things like that, to show that the Gullah Geechee culture is coming to the forefront. Like, I think it's something that almost feels like you have to kind of like go and find.
Mhm.
Uh, hopefully that answers your question. I You asked a very good question,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to find all the words to like bring it
And we'll
together.
edit it too. It does. The
No, I
reason
think
why
that sounds good. Go on, go
Yeah,
for it.
yeah. I was just more curious because again, me and Nicole have had these conversations where you come to certain events dealing with Gullah Geechee culture and you don't see a lot of representation from our community. And she is, and Nicole hasn't been the first person to say that. You haven't been the first person to say. So I just wanted to see because at Comic Cons, it's different. It's a different vibe.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
one of the best ones that I suggest going to is I went to DreamCon. DreamCon is completely black centered. I think this year, I think there was 40K people there. People like Megan Thee Stallion came, tons of different streamers. Like it's very much so for I say Gen Z and millennials. The other one that I haven't gone to that I want to go to is BlurredCon, but um, I highly suggest going to this one because in my experience with going to something like LA Comic Con, I have to do a lot of code switching. Like there's
Mhm.
depending on who comes up to the table is how I give my pitch. But everyone that comes to DreamCon knows that it's black centered. So I don't really have to do all the code switching. And it feels very much so like I'm telling you, DreamCon is like a giant cookout. People are line dancing. People there, they do a job fair there at the same time. There's it's amazing. It's amazing. Um, but I say that to say that yeah, like um, even with going to a lot of these conventions, I think the past DreamCon I just did, I think I have about count on my fingers like 10 people that came up and was like, I know something about Gullah Geechee. I think I met 4 or 5 people from South Carolina. So I'm
Wow.
also doing this because I feel like down south, I was just recently talking about this with somebody of how we got to represent more. Like It's not to say that there's not people from down south out there doing it, but like we need more of us to the forefront.
It's just right there. That's meat alone just for you to
Yeah.
just like dwell on that itself. How we can get more people involved to learn. But that's why I was just more interested what you wanted other communities of people to take back from it, because you do find that people that don't look like us know more so about the corridor.
Yeah, yeah. And can I add something to that actually? Like, I know this may sound selfish, but I honestly didn't make this with other people in mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that unapologetically for a reason because you go through Marvel, Star Wars, Star Trek, Harry Potter, all these different mediums. And when we get a black character, even right now it's woke, it's DEI. I want something that champions us in our culture. I did, at certain events. I'm not gonna lie to you. I had people that said, "Hey, like, what about the white people in the story?" Not trying to be mean, but it's almost like, well, what about them? This is a story that's in its Gullah Geechee culture. It's not to say that they're not in the story, but we have very little that centers our traditions, our history, our folklore, and things that also aren't in like a traumatic way. We know that there's so many slavery movies. That's why another reason why I think Sinners did so well because what we expected Remick to be part of the KKK or something, but they found a way to center African American culture and make the other cultures have to fit into that world.
Mhm.
That's what I'm trying to do here, centering our people and everybody else. Y'all are going to be the supporting characters, not out of spite, but because I was a black boy that you know went to school for superhero day just as a superhero that wasn't black, and being told by other kids you can't be that hero because that hero's not black. I mean, yeah, that hero's not black. Um, we need more representation. And even one of the things I want to mention in this story that I've done is we know that also women, in particular black women, the stories in these fantasy worlds get belittled down to being sex symbols, love interest, or having watered down stories. Within this world, we're also making sure that we give black women the respect that they deserve because it is even known in the culture how black women have a deeper connection towards spirits, the land, um, agriculture, all these different things, spirituality, and black women have been the backbone in every major part of history for our people. So it's even known in the lore and some of these different clans that the women are stronger than the men. And you'll see how that plays out in the story as well. But I feel like I should have thrown that in there as well. So,
So when we're talking about putting a project like this together, because I'm assuming is a lot of money to get this started. That's a lot, you know. So tell us a little bit about that, and then I know you have something going on now. If you could talk about, what you're doing now, as far as getting some money up for this. It's a lot.
so we're now in the critical phase. We have about 18 days as of today. We're doing a crowdfunding campaign through Kickstarter. It was for 60 days. I've been doing since the Kickstarter started. I've been boots to the ground, going to events and doing a lot of different things. The goal is 15K. So Kickstarter is a all or nothing campaign. So you either make that 15K goal or don't get none of it. It goes back to the people that donated. And that's another thing I want people to know. If you donate right now, it does not take it out until the project gets funded. You can also start off simple by just doing like a $5 donation, and you can add more as you go along. Or once the project gets funded, you can still add more. So let's say you just give $5, project gets funded, and you want to give a little bit more, you can go up to like $50. So I want to also mention with the Kickstarter, it's different than like a GoFundMe. There's tier systems of what different rewards that you can get. All the rewards that you're going to be able to get from Kickstarter or are exclusive limited time. You will only be able to like the limited edition posters, limited edition stickers, the exclusive covers. You're only going to be able to get that through Kickstarter. But we're raising 15K. It's because just to get Volume 0 and Volume 1 made, it's 5K. and I'm outsourcing. So I work with an artist in Brazil. I do everything, but there's a certain, even I do the concepts. It's just there's a certain style that I'm looking for that I can't do. So I work with artists in Brazil. And shout out to my artist. His name is Zeno. He does amazing work. And the other 5K would be like for things like getting the different rewards made, getting them sent out, the publication. And that's another thing I should mention. By backing the Kickstarter, you'll be the first to get Volume Zero and Volume One of Camp Geechee. We ain't going to be putting out Camp Geechee until the Kickstarter backers get all their stuff.
Mhm.
Um, so that is what we're doing right now. It is a lot of money goes into it, like you said.
Yeah.
So right now we're at 3K with 18 days to go. And for a lot of people, they hear that and they're like, to me, I'm very optimistic. That's my good foot forward. I lean on faith, and I know we're going to reach that goal. We're
Mhm.
going to be having to do some. I'm going to be doing. I'm going to turn up the heat a little bit more, and really, if I'm not working or have fitness clients, we're going to hit boots to the ground even harder. Because I'm very passionate about bringing the story to life. Because this isn't for me. This is for culture and community. Um, I should mention because I don't know if we covered this, but with this story, it's not just going to be something that you can read. Yes, we want to work towards getting an anime, but it's something that you can taste. Normally, when I do my setups, I take Gullah Geechee recipes or Gullah Geechee inspired recipes, and they have their own lore in the story. For example, our family makes a sour hibiscus juice, but in the story, it's known as the Forest Harmony brew. We do the same thing with certain, like we do a sweetgrass honey pound cake, cupcake. Has its own lore in the story. Carolina Crafts of Hush Puppies has its own lore in the story. So now you're not even just going to be able to read it, but we're also working on the soundtrack. To where we're taking certain Gullah Geechee or certain folklore songs and remixing them to something a little bit more modern. And then we're also taking certain things like, for example, like Gullah Geechee ring shouting, and I turned that into a game that kids can play. Because 5 years, 10 years down the road, we hope to have a live Camp Geechee, to where not only kids can come to, but all generations can come to. Um, so that's why this is so critical. I spent the last probably a little over a year doing what I call campaigning, building the community so that when we came to this point right here, it would be a lot easier. I don't mind having, I feel like right now God has asked me how bad do I want it? And I'm going to tell him every time that I want it so bad.
Mhm.
So that's all I feel like this is with this challenge right now. But yes, I hope, I know that's a little bit of a rant, but
No,
um,
no, we like this. This is real. People like to hear real stuff. People want authentic, ness. Like I know I do. When I hear something and I want to be invested in what you got going on, or I want to purchase, I want to hear how real it is.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Oh
yes.
wow, this is great. This is awesome. Tiffany, you want to do the elevator pitch question?
Yes. So we do this question towards the end. We always ask, what are 3 words that would describe your passion? In this case for you, what are 3 words that would describe your passion and dedication to Camp Geechee?
Innovation, um, innovation, preservation, and you know what? No, innovation, preservation, and imagination.
Mm,
Imagination. Okay. And why would you choose
Yes.
those 3?
So what I also hope to do with this story is I feel like the youth that is growing up needs to see black faces in realms that they don't often see them in. And one of those, of course, with creating a story like this, it takes imagination. And imagination is best realized by coming from the actual things that you experience in life. So this project is imagination meets preservation and also meets innovation. So we
mm,
start off with that imagination of getting these ideas. We then take it to something of like the idea that we need to preserve our culture, and then we ask ourselves in an innovative way, how do we meet this audience? And like I said, right now, of course, the whole point of it is one of those ways of being innovative with this is by doing a manga.
Mm.
So that's why I will use imagination, preservation, and innovation.
How can how can we follow you? How can the viewers follow you and get to know Camp Geechee?
Okay, so first off, if you guys type in Kickstarter, I mean, if you type in Camp Geechee Volume 0 and Volume 1 Kickstarter, you should be able to find it, find the actual Kickstarter. But if you don't want to do that, you can go through any of my social medias. On TikTok, it's at Josh Stay Motivated. On Instagram, you can either do my main page, which is at Joshua Mishoe, or Camp Geechee. Both of them have the link in the link tree. Facebook can either be Camp Geechee or Joshua Mishoe as well. Yet again, in the link tree. Those are the main ways that you can find me if you want to reach out for collaboration or just to contact, find out more information. My email is mishuejoshua@gmail.com. Oh, and for people that don't know how to spell Mishoe, it's Mishoe.
I want to thank you for coming on. We love meeting new people, and especially what you're doing. It's just dope. It's just dope. Like this is gonna be exciting. I'm excited for everything, but I'm really excited for the coloring book. I ain't gonna lie.
I
Yeah.
know, I
I
know.
love that.
And thank you again for the representation, giving a voice to people who look similar to us and having their focal or viewpoint, their perspective being
Yeah.
shown. So congratulations. I'm excited for you and I hope it keeps growing and that you get more exposure on all your platforms, including this one.
Thank you guys for having me.
And
Thank
don't
you.
forget us when you blow up too.
Yeah, don't forget us, man.
Oh
Don't
no, we're not going
say
to do
it
that
to
because guess
people. I
what?
always say that.
Y y'all family, y'all locked in now, so y'all get characters in the story. So we're gonna have to get y'all some characters in the story.
You know what? Thank you. Thank you. You can do a story to me. I'm a black librarian.
Yes, she
You
is.
Ooh,
can do a
She
story
is.
on, yeah.
that
Your story.
She has
I
the
already know.
keys.
I got the
Ooh,
keys. Yeah.
you
Like,
the
what your book?
boss. Look, that's even better because I already know what clan that you'll be a part of. But I'll let you pick. I'll let you pick.
Oh,
So
that's
really, don't
dope.
forget about us. I'll be serious with people. We laughing, but I'm
Oh,
like, don't blow up when we see you in a Walmart or somewhere. Like,
Right?
oh
I
no,
see that
oh
and be
no.
like, and then you tell people, yeah, we interviewed him. They be, you lying.
we don't know
I'm
them. Like,
I'm not gonna forget about y'all because this story is rooted in community. So when it's up on the big screen, that's why I told y'all I'm putting actual people in the story because that means I can escape y'all. Y'all characters in the story. Y'all come on now, like come on.
But
So
we want
yeah,
to thank you for coming on. Everybody, please follow him. We'll have all his information listed and in the caption and everything. Thank you again. We wish you the best. We absolutely do. And don't forget about us, like we said. And everybody that's watching, please follow, like I said again, please follow him. Please follow us. Like, share, and subscribe. Until the next time, guys. Thank you.
thank
thank
you.
you.